Antonio C. Mottola, born on April 18, 1918 in Kearny, New Jersey, was best known for his work as musical director on early CBS television shows and his frequent collaboration with Frank Sinatra and Perry Como. During his childhood, Tony would listen to a lot of music on the radio. His favorites were Enrico Caruso, Louis Armstrong, and Django Reinhardt. At the age of 9, Tony knew he wanted to be a musician, specifically a saxophonist. This wouldn't work out for Tony because his parents decided that he was too young to take the bus to Newark, where the nearest saxophone lessons were. Instead, Tony would learn to play guitar, which he quickly fell in love with and would practice frequently.
78 record on, you'd crank it up and you'd put the needle on and you could slow the speed down. So if somebody was playing something like you could slow it down where it would be boo 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 boo, and you could be able to figure out how he did that. And then as I would practice and put the speed back to where it was, the only trouble with that is that like every time you lowered the speed, it changed the pitch, so you're playing a different key.
Tony appeared on a children's music show on WAAT radio. Tony would make acquaintance with a young Frank Sinatra, a man whose career would frequently come to intertwine with his own. WAAT offered now 14-year-old Tony and his band the Blue Blazers their own time slot in which they would play the standards of the day. A friend would ask the now 18-year-old Tony if he would go on tour with the George Hall Orchestra. Tony, as any 18-year-old would, agreed. But after a short period of frequently eating the fried food of the southern United States, Tony would have to return home from sickness. Tony's weak stomach would exempt him from military service, saving him from the horrors of the Second World War. Once he returned home, Tony would marry Mitzi, who had been on the children's music show with him. Tony and Mitzi moved to New York, where Tony got a job at CBS Radio, where he played music with the Tony Mottola Trio. At CBS, Tony would switch from acoustic to the recently invented electric guitar, specifically Gibson's. In 1949, CBS asked Tony if he would be on their first live music show, called Face the Music, later renamed to Make Mine Music. In the show, Tony and a few other people would play music followed by a skit. Later on, Tony was requested to do the music for the CBS show Danger, which is currently playing in the background.
I was in this little room with a monitor, my guitar, my amplifier, and a set of earphones. Now on the earphones, on one side I was tuned into the action on stage, hearing the dialogue, the actors. On this side, I was hearing the control room. I was hearing Yule's directions to the camera, take one, take two, move this in, cues to the audio man, cues to the director, the man who was doing the shots, the TV crew director. And all while this is going on in both ears, I'm playing the guitar. And you tell me, how can you play the guitar, turn pages of a script, listen to this and listen to that without going bananas? So which is what I had to do practically every week, was practically memorize what I was doing musically, because there's no way I could,
Tony would become famous within the music industry for the Danger or Mottola chord. This was the first chord in the Danger intro, and is playing right now. In an interview, Tony said that the Danger chord was an E minor major minor 7, which I'm not sure even exists, and on the internet people are saying that it is a B7 over E minor. Tony would play a similar role as he did on Danger in multiple other shows, and would later become a member of the Tonight Show band, all the while releasing his own music. Discogs.com says Tony released 120 albums, singles, EPs, and compilations, alongside being credited on an additional 600 records. Picking favorites is definitely a hard task, but here's my favorite 3. Released in 1959, Mr. Big was Tony's first record where he was the main focus, and the first of many records Tony would have produced by Enoch Light. Much of the music featured was from the TV shows he composed for, including the aforementioned Danger, and a departure from his usual style in Carnival Time. Also, this was the only album of Tony's with good quality pictures of the cover so I could actually tell who worked on it. Love Songs of Mexico and South America, released in 1965. This was Tony's first foray into Latin American music, and had my personal favorite version of the Mexican hat dance, which is playing now. For this album, Tony opted to use a gut string guitar, as he thought that it would give the album a more authentic feel. Tony Mottola Joins the Guitar Underground was released in 1969. Tony explores a much more psychedelic sound. It is my personal favorite album of his, because the music has much more energy and push behind it. This album includes a very good cover of Hey Jude and Those Were the Days, and my personal favorite song of his, Guitar Underground. When Tony died in 2004, someone wrote that Tony had won an Emmy for writing the score to the television documentary Two Childhoods, which is said to be about the childhood of Vice President Herbert Humphrey and writer James Baldwin. This would be fairly impressive if there was any proof of this. When you Google Two Childhoods Emmys, you only get results for the Emmy Awards and a Russian documentary about World War II called Dva Детства. In a 2-hour-long interview with Tony about his life, he makes no reference to the Emmys at all. A 50 Cent song uses a sample from Tony Mottola. Here's the beat from When It Rains It Pours. And here's the intro to Tony Mottola's Those Were the Days. And here's them together. Here's a video from a White House dinner that Tony, Frank Sinatra, Perry Como, and Bucky Pizzarelli played at.
As a matter of fact, I think that you ought to know, all of you up here on this platform, that President Pertini has just claimed that you're illegal aliens and he's repatriating
you. This is where I want to be. Here with you so close to me.
Tony, well into his 60s, was enjoying his retirement when he was given a deal he couldn't refuse. In 1980, he was offered to play one last time with Frank Sinatra, which quickly turned into a world tour. After this tour, Tony's 56-year-long career finally came to an end. Tony died in 2004 from double pneumonia and a stroke in Denville, New Jersey, only 30 kilometers from where he was born.
It's Sunday. It's Sunday. She needn't waken. I'll fix the eggs and bacon her way, while she just dozes